Hey there, 8th graders, and welcome to today's Explainer. We are unpacking a seriously intense period in American history today. We're looking at the early 1800s, where a seemingly boring topic, taxes, created massive political tension and honestly practically split the country right in two. But hey, this isn't just a history lesson about money. It's actually a profound moral lesson about fairness, unity, and how the choices our leaders make end up impacting everyone. Here is a quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll cover 1. What is a tariff? 2. Why the North cheered. 3. Why the South protested. 4. The nullification crisis. 5. Morality, fairness, and unity. And 6. Education with a purpose. Section 1. What is a tariff? Okay, before we can truly understand the history, the drama, and the near collapse of the country, we have to understand the math. So a tariff is simply a tax on goods imported from other countries. It's designed to make foreign goods more expensive so people are encouraged to buy American-made products instead. Think of it as a tool used by the government. They want you to buy local, so they just slap a fee on anything coming in from overseas. Sounds like a pretty straightforward strategy to help your own team, right? Well, let's break down the math. Say you want to buy some imported cloth from Europe. The original cost is $5. But the government has placed a 20% tariff on it. Now, 20% of $5 is $1. So you add that $1 tax, and the total price you have to pay is now $6. Suddenly, that imported cloth doesn't look like such a great deal anymore, right? Especially if there's an American-made cloth sitting right next to it that only costs $5. This simple little math equation completely forces consumers to change their buying habits. Section 2. Why the North cheered. Because of that exact math equation we just looked at, one half of the United States was basically throwing a party. In the 1820s and 1830s, the northern states were going through an incredible industrial boom. They were building these massive factories, producing textiles, tools, you name it. When the government instituted high tariffs, it triggered a massive chain reaction for them. It provided immediate protection from cheaper European competition. Because if foreign goods are suddenly more expensive, well, everyone starts buying northern goods. This led to explosive local business growth and massive job creation. And as their wealth grew, so did their political influence in Washington. For the North, the tariff wasn't just a tax, it was literally a shield that allowed their entire economy to thrive. Section 3. Why the South protested. But while the North was throwing a parade, the South was facing an absolute economic nightmare. The Southern economy was entirely different. They weren't building factories, they were purely agricultural. They relied heavily on growing cotton and exporting it across the ocean, especially to Britain. In return, they bought manufactured goods from Europe. Now think about what the tariff does to them. They are suddenly forced to pay much higher costs for all the everyday imported goods they need just to survive. Worse, they lived in constant fear that foreign countries would retaliate against the American tariffs by just refusing to buy Southern cotton. So they suffered the entire burden of this tax without seeing a single one of the benefits. No way that was going to go over well. So we're looking at two completely distinct visions for America at the time. Over here, a northern industrial economy that absolutely thrives on government protection and tariffs. And over there, a southern agricultural economy that depends heavily on open, untaxed trade with the rest of the world. What we have here is a situation where one region's direct benefit became another region's heavy burden. And, when people feel like the rules are rigged against their livelihood, things get pretty heated. Section 4. The nullification crisis. This economic disagreement over what is fair was absolutely about to boil over. Let's trace how fast this escalated. Throughout the 1820s, northern factories are growing, and they just keep asking for higher and higher tariffs. Then, in 1828, Congress passes a tariff so incredibly high that Southerners literally nicknamed it the Tariff of Abominations. I mean, they hated it that much. The anger stews for a few years until 1832, when the state of South Carolina takes a really drastic step. They threatened to nullify or completely ignore the federal law. They basically told the federal government, look, we aren't paying it, and if you try to make us, we might just leave the country altogether. Wow. Finally, in 1833, a compromise was reached to gradually lower the tariffs over time, which thankfully backed everyone away from the cliff. But the nullification crisis was a massive test of federal authority under President Andrew Jackson. He had to stand firm and say, hey, you cannot just ignore national laws. While the 1833 compromise temporarily ended the immediate crisis, the damage was definitely done. The lingering resentment proved that money issues very quickly become severe power issues. It showed everyone just how easily a dispute over national policy could fundamentally divide the nation, a division that would, unfortunately, just keep growing until the Civil War. Section 5. Morality, Fairness, and Unity. Okay, we've looked at the facts, but let's take a step back and look at this conflict through a deeper moral lens. Consider the words found in Philippians 2:3. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves. That is such a powerful instruction. Selfishness, looking out only for your own factory, your own state, your own wallet, that divides communities. But humility seeks out what is genuinely fair for everyone. It requires you to stop and ask, wait, how does what I want actually affect my neighbor? When we connect that scripture back to the tariff dispute, the lesson becomes super clear. The lawmakers passing the tariff of abominations weren't exactly valuing others above themselves, were they? They were acting out of regional ambition. Leaders and citizens alike absolutely must consider how laws affect the entire nation, not just their own group. Wise government and good citizenship absolutely require fairness, humility, a willingness to compromise, and a genuine concern for the common good. Because without those virtues, a nation just tears itself apart. So, I want you to really think about this for a second. How can people support their own community while still caring about the needs of others? Is it actually possible to protect northern factories without totally crushing southern farmers? It's a really tough balancing act, but it is the very core of what it means to be a responsible citizen and a godly leader. Just take a second to let that breathe and reflect on what that balance looks like in your own life. Section 6. Education with a Purpose. Let's bring all of these historical and moral threads together. At the HeroesMart Academy Godly Learner Series, biblical morality is intentionally intertwined with education for a very specific reason. Because intellect without morality is incredibly dangerous. Think about it. The politicians in 1828 were very smart, highly educated men. They knew exactly how the math of a tariff worked. But education without morality hurts people. If you are incredibly smart, but you completely lack the humility to care about how your choices impact others, you will end up creating policies and making life choices that destroy unity and cause pain, just like those selfish tariffs did. And there's actually a promise tied to this way of living. Romans 8:6-7 promises peace of mind to everyone who keeps his or her mind spiritual. Maintaining a spiritual mindset, one that is fully focused on God's wisdom, humility, and love for others, is the absolute key to experiencing true peace. It's not just about memorizing historical dates for a test. It's about transforming your mind. This is the core experience of engaging with this kind of God-centered educational content. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. What is the point of being educated if we just continue to make choices that hurt others? As you move forward, how will you apply this spiritual mindset to your own learning? I challenge you to not just be a student with a sharp mind, but a leader with a humble, godly heart. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep reflecting, and I'll see you next time.